was the first car you bought?
I think the first car we probably had was a car that was like a family, extra family car.
I mean, once you
provided so that
once
I
you got
personally
yours,
bought.
yeah.
My personal vehicle that I first bought was a pickup truck, brand new one, Dodge, 1952, sort of light green, if I recall, I believe. That wasn't something that I kept because I did trade that off for a Plymouth, and that Plymouth was a used one that we brought to California, and we had problems with it on the way out, and so we hitchhiked the rest of the way out to California and left it sit in Idaho. I believe it was in Idaho someplace, and came back and after we earned some money to buy some repairs for it, and that's another story in itself. But I did get it repaired, brought it to California, drove it for a month or so, and then a lady smashed into it when Walt Henry was getting some groceries. And it was her fault, so ended up getting the repairs made and the entire car painted. So before we came back home, we had our car in pretty decent shape and painted, and well, that was in 1954. In 55 January, then I went into service, and I don't know, we sort of pass it on to the kids or something like that, you know, and it just sort of stays there. And of course, if you leave something to stay on the farm, it's going to be used. I really truthfully don't know whatever happened to those vehicles. I guess I didn't really care. So when I came home from service and needed a car, then I used one of the other boys' or dad's or somebody's car.
Was your mom born here in the United States, or was she born in France?
My mother was born on a farm in Belleville, and she was born after Elsie and Ruby. Ruby first, then Elsie. Mother and Elsie were only a couple of years apart. They were born in Frenchtown.
Now, did they maintain their French customs, the way they cooked or anything when she grew up, or did she pretty much had American style?
She pretty much Americanized, although you would think that there would have been a lot of French things that...
You'd think a lot of stews kind of stuff.
Because her mother passed away when she was a very small baby, like 2. And the baby was only like 6 months old. And so she went, and Elsie, at the funeral, her aunt on the paternal side Aunt Della brought her to Carthage and Basco, Illinois, on the train. And they stayed down there a couple years. And then she came back. Elsie went to school, and she came back to stay with an aunt, Millie, I believe. No, it wasn't Millie. An aunt, anyway, who only spoke French. And so here's a young lady, my mom, had probably been 4 or 5 years old by that time, with a family that only was strictly French. And so she had to have learned the customs and like you were saying, the cookings and all of that stuff, being around that was her grandmother, not an aunt, her grandmother, that she stayed with. And of course, this is all word of mouth that I'm getting this, mainly from Elsie. She can still tell you that story. And you can ask her in depth and she will get much deeper into that. But my mom had no hint of having French accent. I don't recall any particular foods other than real staples that we had off the farm or out of the garden that was made what we consider today to be American.
What was a normal Sunday dinner like? Do you remember?
Meat and potatoes.
Was there like a ritual you would have for
No.
Sunday dinner?
Not really.
No.
Meat and potatoes.
Mostly boiled potatoes and then mashed, or baked and
Both.
then mashed, or
Well, nothing baked. I think most of it was all the potatoes at that time were peeled to get the skins off, which they don't do today, and the eyes out of them, and then cut up and either served that way and just being cut, or sometimes they would mash them and put some milk and butter in them. And if they didn't put butter in them, they used a gravy from one of the meats. Pork, chicken, and beef. Well, those are the things that we had on the farm. And normally we'd always have something butchered. And at that time we didn't have freezers. A little later on in the farm we did have freezers that I can recall, but most of it was canned in large jars with large tops. I can't recall us ever doing much smoking or doing anything that did with curing of hams or drying it or anything, or meat. Most of it fairly fresh.
what was your favorite meal that your mom would make?
Roast beef and gravy with corn. That hasn't changed.
No.
It's still great. Of course, you got to watch what you eat today. But in fact, that helps put the pounds on. Has up to this point.
What's your favorite candy?
Candy, Hershey probably. Chocolate.
Milk chocolate? Dark chocolate?
Milk chocolate. Mm-hmm.
And what about favorites like cakes or pies or?
Well, in the later years here, it's gotten to be that some of the favorite pies were sour cream raisin. Prior to that, probably a French apple type, or graham cracker crust, custard filled pie.
Weren't you known to bake at one time?
Well, when I was on the farm and before living on the farm, yeah, I experimented with baking, and you learn the hard way.
I know, you always would make your birthday cakes. That's what I'm saying.
We
I remember him baking in the new house. I don't
Yeah.
remember him baking before that, but
but normally,
I remember baking in the new house.
yeah, there's no reason why I can't have a recipe to follow and bake, sure. But nothing complicated like, it's cookies or cake, nothing
Uh-huh.
like a pie or breads or any of that stuff. Although I suppose we could experiment. But, no, I don't have a magic touch that way. As far as any favorite beverages, at one time, I guess we can say you can call ice cream a beverage of sorts. We've always liked ice cream. Going way back when we were on the farm, that was one of the treats we did have, and even in town, we had treats of having ice cream once we got a ice box. which meant that we had the ice delivered to us as well. Normally you'd have to get small containers of ice cream because icebox doesn't keep it that cold.